Hi everybody. So oftentimes in my daily work, I find myself having to switch between analog and digital. And one of the things that I want to show you guys today is how to take two digital models, edentulous ones, that have a digital byte and create a byte that you can actually print and mount these models onto an articulator. Whether you're going to be mounting printed models or models that you're going to duplicate in stone and articulate them that way. So let me show you what I mean. So I have two models here, edentulous, upper and lower with the digital byte. And I need to maybe print these models and mount them onto an articulator using this specific byte. But I don't have an actual physical byte that I can use just yet. Oftentimes, the clinicians will use a centric tray to, capture this byte, and maybe they will send you the centric tray with them. But sometimes you just don't have the time to do it. You have to start working right away. So what you will do is actually not that complicated. So let me show you steps to do that. You'll go into Mesh Mix. Actually, you have to select one of the models first and go into Mesh Mix and select a cylinder, just a simple cylinder like this. It's going to be fairly big. Let's rotate it about 90 degrees right there and position it in relation to the upper and lower models. Lower this down about right here in this direction. So it is fairly big. Let's actually make it a bit smaller. So it's about 80 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to make it about 60 millimeters. I've tried this before and it ended up being a good diameter for this particular case. Now, if you have uniform scaling selected, it's actually going to change in all the axes. I'm going to move this a little bit forward just so I'm covering these zones fairly well. And I'm actually going to lower it. And the reason why I want to do that is because if you have some areas that are not covered completely or just barely covered, you might have problems doing your Boolean difference with all the cases actually. So this looks about right. This is what I usually will do. And I'll press accept. Now, if you look on this object, it's kind of uneven around the borders. It's not a solid object just yet. So we'll need to make it a solid object, otherwise it will have trouble doing the Boolean difference option again. So I'm going to go into Edit, and I'm going to make solid. I'm going to press the Make Solid object option. At this point, I'll just press Accept, and we have a solid object, as you can see right here. So this one I no longer need, so I'll just delete it. My next step is to Boolean subtract these models from this cylinder. And the way I do it is I select my cylinder first, press Shift and select one of the models. And I have these options that are going to pop up. I'm going to click Boolean difference and it will actually remove this model from the cylinder. I'll press accept. I take a little bit of time to get this through it depending on your computer. And we're going to press Shift and do the same thing with the upper model. Okay. So it actually took out both models. Now we have this area and this area that we don't need. So first we're going to press accept and finish up the actual procedure. Now we need to select these areas that we're going to erase. So we're going to click select. Sometimes you click 2 times. Sometimes you have to click 20 times for it to select, but sooner or later it will be selected. I'll press delete and erase the area that I do not need. And I'll do the same thing with the other side. And now we have our byte registration. Now you can go ahead and print it like this, but a couple of things are going to happen. First of all, it's going to be one big solid object, and it's going to take a lot of resin to print that. Also, when you're printing something that big, oftentimes in post-processing, it's going to give you some issues with changes, maybe not right away, but definitely down the line because you're not curing the whole thing evenly through. The way to actually maybe, if not eliminate those issues completely, but at least to reduce them quite drastically, is to do this. So let's clear our selection and go into Edit and press Hollow. We're going to hollow our model. We're going to press Accept. And at this point, the object is actually hollow. Next thing we're going to do is press Plane Cut and rotate our plane about 90 degrees. And we can bring it back and forth depending on how much of a model you actually want to keep. So that's a bit maybe too much, so maybe a little bit less. Like that should be plenty to actually articulate our model. So I'm going to press accept. And at this point, you have a object that's significantly smaller in size and is going to take a lot less resin to print it. Additionally, what I can do is to go back into Mesh Mix and select something like this and bring it right onto our byte. And if you have the Boolean subtract option enabled, pressing accept will actually create more holes. So I'll do that. A couple areas I can actually make it bigger or smaller if I want, and do that here. And one more just on this side right here should be sufficient. And actually the reason why I'm going to put those holes in is you're not going to be saving that much resin with it, but what you will be doing is making it a little bit easier to wash all the extra resin out of it if you need to. It might make it a bit more complex on the sprueing part, but in my experience it actually doesn't really cause any issues. If anything, actually helps things out a little bit because you don't have a big object you're printing right in that area, so the suction on the FEP film is actually going to be less. So at this point, I will actually go into Analysis and Inspector and make sure that I don't have any holes in my mesh. Looks like we're good. And I'm actually going to press Control A to select it all, go into Edit and reduce my file size because I don't need it to be a big file. By 50, I usually go about 70%. It still keeps all the data that I actually need, but the file size is going to be significantly smaller at this point. And clear selection. And all I have to do now is file and export it. Okay, so if I bring my models back in, you can actually see that they fit perfectly onto this byte registration. And once I print them, I can actually just go ahead and mount them on my articulator. So that's about it, folks. Hopefully this will help you in some way or the other. And as always, good luck and have fun.